Welcome back, everyone. Charles Schwab and Ariel Investments recently published their 2022 Black Investor Survey. Well, let's take a look at the trends they uncovered with Kelly Johnson, portfolio manager for Schwab Asset Management, and Yahoo Finance's own Rhonda Lee. Thank you both for joining me. So first, I want to talk about the goal of the survey here and what sort of impact you're hoping that it has, Kelly.
Yes, we've been doing this survey in partnership with Ariel Investments since 1998. And the idea was to track the behaviors and attitudes towards investing and some of the differences between Black and white investors in the United States over time.
I have a question for you. So I'm just curious, particularly when it comes to the amount of crypto investing. Not all cryptocurrency is created equal. So I know it mentioned that most Black investors have a huge crypto portfolio. When you spoke with them about their crypto, was there any distinction made between Bitcoin versus the other type of cryptocurrencies out there?
Well, the survey is broader than crypto. It focuses on across asset classes and across ways to invest, such as mutual funds, exchange traded funds, et cetera. So when the survey asked about crypto, it was more in the generic sense, not differentiating between various types. The takeaway, though, for us was that we were extremely pleased to see that, in particular, Black investors under 40 were investing at a level in the stock market higher than white investors. And we were actually excited to see that they were engaged in some of the newer investments, such as crypto and things of that nature. But unfortunately, we found evidence in this survey that there were many investing in crypto and other assets who didn't necessarily understand what they were investing in.
With that in mind, then, we did see in the survey this greater trust in technology as a way to grow and protect money by 31% of the Black investors that you surveyed there. What does that mean for some of these volatile investments, or perhaps in some of these volatile investing environments like right now?
Sure, it's interesting. I'll use a conversation I had over Thanksgiving with my son, who's in his mid-20s, as an example. So we were talking over Thanksgiving dinner about crypto. And I was telling him the way I think about it, and he was telling me the way he thinks about it. And he came at it from two angles. The first was that, we should not trust the system. We shouldn't trust the Federal Reserve. We shouldn't trust the government. We should be invested in something that is not going to be looking at us in terms of race, but just in terms of our ability to invest. And then the second one was more generational, that we're younger and we know more about this than you, that sort of thing. So we actually got a similar vibe or similar takeaway from the Schwab Investor Survey more broadly, that this underlying theme of distrust and this underlying theme of trusting technology, because technology tends to be less racially biased. So that, in a way, that underpins some of the investments that we saw in crypto.
I just want to follow up on what you talked about with the racial bias and the trend towards more technology, mainly with the 401k not being the main gateway to investing. And we see that they're coming in, possibly because they're gig workers, that they're using robo-advisors, again, to also avoid any bias that you would get in person. So did that come into play?
It did. This year, 2022, was the first year we had separated out, just asking what was their gateway into investing. And about 30% of the time, 401ks and similar plans for Black Americans were the gateway into investing. You raise a good point, which is that it really is interesting the way African Americans have gravitated toward tech. And I personally feel very comfortable with technology. And there's lots of situations where I'd rather buy something online versus going into a retail store, but for reasons that I'm sure you understand.
And I want to talk about risk aversion, because we did see that the study broke down some of the correlation between historical, economic and social events like recessions, healthcare reform, the murder of George Floyd, and how that impacted trends for Black investors. Talk about those key findings and how that might perhaps give us some insights into how some of these future trends might shape investment and risk.
Yeah, one thing we found in particular in the 2020 version of the survey was that we asked about environmental, social, and governance investing, or ESG investing. And we found that there was a wide gap between the level of ESG preference among Black investors versus white investors. So Black investors were more interested in this. Black investors were more interested in having their voice heard and reflect their own the biases in terms of politics and such, and just wanting to do well with their money, as well as doing good.
All right, we do thank you for joining us. Kelly Johnson, their portfolio manager for Schwab Asset Management, and of course, Yahoo Finance's own Ron DeLee. Thank you both.